Hey guys, how are you doing today? Let us talk about the research proposal. This teaching and this screen that you are going to be seeing is gotten from the newsletters that I send out every Monday. And if you are not subscribed to that newsletter, I do not know what you are doing and what you're waiting for. Please subscribe to my newsletters. I'm going to put the link in the caption. And please like, please share my YouTube video. So, what is a research proposal? A research proposal is a brief but detailed outline of your intended research study. Now, when you want to go for a research intensive master's, especially if you want funding of some sort, you'd likely be looking at making that study research intensive or research focused. And some universities would require you to write a research proposal. It's not compulsory, but some universities will require you. I know that my university required me to write one, and I had to write one. So if your university has like rules and regulations of how they want that proposal to be, please don't get creative. Just write it. But if there are no specific requirements of what the proposal should be, this video is meant to give you a standardized guideline that will guide you for your study. Now, your research proposal is basically a document that you get to submit or you upload on the application portal. It is not meant to be so long, but it's not meant to also be so short. So it should be somewhere between 3 to 7 pages. In fact, 7 pages is too long because it's a proposal, it's not the actual research that you are doing, unlike your undergraduate thesis or your master's thesis that you have done. You know how many pages that is because you are already doing this. But this is something that you are proposing ahead of time, telling them that, oh, this is what my interest is all about, and this is what I would like to do, how I would like to do it, and why I even want to do it. All right. So I wrote down some things here, and that is what I'll also be sharing on the screen as this video goes on. So your research proposal should basically talk about your what, your why, and your how. All right. Your what is your research about? What is it talking about? Your why is justification as to why this research is important. Why should we consider what you want to study? What is the significance of what you want to study? And the how is your method. How do you want to go about this research? Is it going to require you to travel? Where are you going to get your information from? Stuff like that. How are you going to gather them? Who do you want to study? Who is your population? Some of these terminologies, you may already have come across them if you did your undergraduate thesis quite well. So you may actually already know them. So they may not be so new to you, but sometimes the difficulty comes in trying to organize your thoughts, trying to know what to write where and when. So that is what this video is going to help you to do. Now let's get into it. The first thing you want to talk about is your research topic. Your research topic should be in bold, should be what the reviewer sees first when they open that document. It should not be so long, it should be concise, it should be most likely straight to the point, just so that if I am a layman researcher, when I'm reading your topic or when I'm reading your work from your topic, I already feel like, oh, I have an idea of what he or she is trying to say, right? So don't let your topic be too ambiguous that your reviewer does not understand. Mind you that it is possible that it is an academician, more like a faculty, but maybe someone that is not directly in your field of study, just so that they can also even understand how you communicate your research to other people. All right. So the first thing is your topic. Talk about your topic. Be clear, be concise, let your topic mean what it says, and let it actually interpret what you have in mind to talk about. And the next thing that you want to do is your introduction. So you write your topic in bold and then your introduction. Your introduction, I already broke it down here into different sections. So basically, what your introduction is trying to do is to give an insight, give an overview of what your work is all about. So I started by breaking it down into background of the study. Background of the study is just what the name is, really, background. You are trying to lay some foundation as to how this particular research interest came about. For example, mine had to deal with digital information access for minority communities, and then at some point I talked about having to create a socio-technical system that would help them. All right, and how did it come about? I laid my background by talking about the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on minority communities in Nigeria. That is a good background. It doesn't necessarily mean that that is what you want to study, but that background just gives your reviewer an insight as to, this is what this person is talking about. I see kind of how this problem originated, if you get what I mean. So that is what your background of the study does for you. Now, the next thing is your problem statement. By problem statement, I'm talking about the knowledge gap that exists because of lack of research or no existing research in this aspect that you want to talk about. Remember that in your field of study, there are tons of research that has been written, but your problem statement kind of says, well, I know that there are tons of researches that have been written about this, but nobody has particularly talked about it in this light. So your problem statement could be something about the methodologies, it could be something about the location, it could be literally anything, but you need to be able to justify why your research is important. Okay. And then the next thing I want to talk about is the research objective. Your research objective or your research questions. I would usually advise that you pick one. Like pick one. Don't write both, because I mean it's a proposal. Maybe go for the research question. I prefer to write the research question. I wrote the research question for mine too. Maybe you should do that. There is no particular reason, right? But it's just because usually the same thing you write in the objective is likely what you repeat as a question in the research question. So I would just say go for the research question because then you are able to say, oh, these are the questions that my research hopes to answer, okay? Because already you've established the knowledge gap prior. So you can just say, oh, well, these are like the things, that's like what it means. These are the questions that my research hopes to answer. And the next stage in that introduction is the significance. The significance of your study basically means why is your study important? Why should they care? As a researcher, you need to be able to convince other researchers why they should care. Who are the stakeholders involved? And what would be the benefit of this research to those stakeholders? Literally, that's what you're trying to tell them that, well, I mean, I know that a lot of researchers have done this, but this is why my research is important. This is the knowledge gap, all right? These are the questions that my research hopes to answer. This is the objective of my research. And these are the people that will benefit from this. So mine was like the marginalized communities. You justify how, or state how the marginalized communities can benefit from this. Yours could be maybe youth. Yours could be academic community. It doesn't have to, be so out there. It could be just the academic community. It could be your fellow researchers. It could be literally anything and anybody. It could be the population of your study that would benefit from it. So that significance is for you to justify, why this study is important. Now, the next part is the literature review. And the thing about literature review is that it is not what you have said, all right, literature review basically is about what is already existing in the field of study or regarding that your interest, all right. And so one way to go about it is to read extensively. You need to read a lot just to establish that you know what's going on in that field, you know what's going on regarding that your interest. Because you cannot say that you want to solve a problem without knowing, oh, what has been going on in this, field, what have people been talking about. Also, another way you can establish the problem gap is by saying, oh, I've read these literatures, these are the things I've read, and I've not really seen any of them address this particular issue. So you see, now you're trying to like justify why your research is important. So if you don't do a literature review, it kind of leaves your work hanging. All right. I know that a lot of people dread the literature review. I do, but it's very important that you really do it. And your literature review, you could do about 5 to 10 readings. I'm not sure you should do more than that, really, unless your university specifically states that maybe they want 15, but if they don't, please don't overtask yourself. Do between 5 to 10. Why you should do 5 to 10 is just so that you are able to bring forth a good argument as to these are the literatures that exist really, but none of them have really addressed this thing that I want to study. So a literature review can be divided into the theoretical aspect and the empirical aspect. The theoretical aspect kind of it just built around the theories that your research would work with. It's not compulsory, but if you have like theories that ties around your work, for example, mine, I have information literacy theories, and you could just speak about one or two basically. You could also have like a theory that has to do with a method for that course. Mine had to do with grounded theory or at some point. So if you want to, just briefly, it doesn't have to be too long, just explain what that theory is and why that theory is relevant in your work. But the well-known kind of literature review that people do is the empirical review. Empirical review. The empirical review is evidence-based. It's like saying this person did this research, this was the kind of research they did, this was the finding, or these were the findings, you know. But this finding, it's it's lacking in this aspect of what I want to study, and that's why I want to study my work. So you could do about 5 evidence-based research. Make sure that it is a research that they really did a study, they gathered data, they analyzed the data, and they reported their findings. That is what empirical research is all about. You do the field work. If it's questionnaire, just make sure that those researchers report their findings. It's not like they're just speaking, they report findings, they say discussion of findings, they talk about the limitations of that study, and probably have recommendations of that study. That is an evidence-based review. So review about 5 of these, and very briefly, you don't have to write so many statements, but it just kind of gives you, that leverage to say people have done this, but I don't find that what they did is quite relevant in this situation of what I want to study. Another reason why people do literature review is, like I already said, to establish the gap. But it's also for you to show them that I am able to do research, because research is not just about you voicing what you want to do, it's about you knowing what has been in the field, knowing how they communicated it, being able to report it, and then being able to show why you are relevant and why you should be here studying the same thing that these other people have studied. All right. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is your how, or your research methodology. See, this part is confusing because you've not done this research, so you can't really tell that this methodology you are reporting is even okay. But it is necessary for you to really report because somehow you have an idea. I still use mine as an example. I want to work with marginalized communities in Nigeria. And I know that marginalized communities can range from educated to semi educated to those who do not have formal education at all. I know. I know that it could also have to do with IDPs, it could also have to do with those who are experiencing homelessness. I cannot go and be giving these people questionnaires. Do you get me? Like, why? So the best I can do is to say, well, I mean, the easiest way to meet this population is by interview, right? So that's what your methodology kind of reports. Your methodology talks about the kind of data you want to gather. So we have the quantitative, we have the qualitative, or if you want both. Mine is both, so we call that mixed method. Why is it mixed method? Because at some point I'm going to gather numbers, data. That's what quantitative is all about. But then I'm also going to gather data using interviews, focus group discussions, observation methods. And that is where qualitative comes in. Okay, so it's either you're doing quantitative, qualitative, or both. And so you have to tell them that, oh, this is going to be a qualitative research, or this is going to be a quantitative research. These are the people you want to study. This is how you want to study them. This is how you want to get your data. That is data collection. And this is how you are going to analyze that data. Please know that whatever it is that you say, like if you say, oh, this is the population I want to study, and this is the method I'm going to use to collect data from them, justify why that method is important. Like I already explained to you, I cannot go to marginalized people and tell them fill this questionnaire. Nobody have my time. Do you get? So you need to be able to establish why that interview. Like if it's an interview, I can walk up to them, have my recording, and say, "Oh hi," and just have a random conversation with them, and I have gotten my data. Now you also need to explain how you plan to analyze that data. If it is like quantitative, you can say you want to do maybe SPSS and all of those number stuff. Or you could say, like qualitative, you could say you want to do a thematic analysis, a context analysis, a content analysis, a discourse analysis. You literally can say anything that you want to do. But remember that you've already talked about the kind of data you want to collect, the people you want to get it from, how you want to gather that data from them, and how you want to analyze it. Literally, it doesn't have to be too long. Like, don't even make this session too long. Don't kill yourself over it because these things keep changing with time. All right. So just make sure that you state it and you justify why this is. And then let's go over to possible timelines. Timelines kind of just speaking to um, how you intend to carry, your study out from what time to what time. It also helps your reviewers to understand that you've actually gone through the requirement for that course, because usually they'll tell you on the website that, oh, this course is a 5-year course by so and so time. This is what you should be doing. These are the modules. If you have to take courses, this is when you should take course. If you want to do a field exam, this is when you should do your field exam and stuff like that. So timeline just kind of speaks into your understanding of what that program entails. Okay. And then the next thing are expected outcomes and budgets. This is not compulsory because you don't even have an idea of how much you would spend really. But if it's required, just understand that it's for logistic purposes. So for both the timeline and the budget, it's preferable to write it out in tables. So instead of writing it, word for word, you can just draw a table, show the timeline, draw another table showing what your budget is going to be. So, for example, mine is going to be Nigeria. Although I wasn't required to write a budget, but assuming I was meant to write one, it means that I would have to probably calculate what the cost of traveling to and from Nigeria to America is going to be, the price, state that down, states, if you're going to travel within the country, state how much that is going to be. The prices change, we know, inflation and all of those things, but it is just for logistics purpose, just to give them an insight into whether they should even really consider you, especially if your funding is tied to that budget. It's just for them to know that, Is this what we want to do? Is this not what we want to do? Does this timeline suit? Is this project even feasible? You get, that's like some of the reasons for these things. So make sure that you kind of, justify. For me, I wasn't required to write a timeline, but I did write a timeline because I also wanted, my project was looking so ambiguous. So I also wanted them to understand that, hey, look, it may not be clear to you guys, but I kind of am clear on what I want to do. Like I have a timeline. I know what I want to do. I can do this in 3 years and I'm good, or 2 years, depending. And so my own work had to be in like two phases. And so I told them, oh, phase one is from this time to this time. Phase two is from this time to this time. This is what I intend to achieve within these two phases. This is how these two phases are being split. This is that. Do you understand? It's not compulsory, but it just kind of helps to make your argument stronger. And the last one is the references and the appendices. Appendices is not compulsory really, but your references is a must. MUST is a must. Because you don't want to be flagged for plagiarism. You don't even want to come off as an intellectual thief. So you have to, it's a must. You must write references. So I would advise that you use a reference management software. I personally use Zotero. I love Zotero. But you can go for Mendeley if that is what you know. I mean, you could type it out, but just for consistency purposes, just for consistency's sake, right? Make sure that a management software is really used. But if you feel like you can type it out, make sure that you're consistent with whatever format you're using. So if it's APA, Harvard, Chicago, IEEE, whatever really you are using, make sure you're consistent in it. Arrange it alphabetically, arrange it, just write out everything. But for consistency's sake and for speed, please just go for a software that would help you do that. Okay. And so I want to wrap up by saying that you do not need to hold yourself by the neck when you're writing this. Chill and relax. Write a first draft and then like just sit down, pour out everything that is in your heart to write. Just roughly write it out. It doesn't have to be perfect your first attempt. But what that does is that it takes out everything. Just keep writing, grammatical error, everything, keep writing. Then you can sit through and then keep editing, keep working on it, you keep modifying it. But what that first draft helps you to do is that it takes out everything already, and then it gives you kind of like a focus on what your work should be, where you can adjust it, and where you can restructure it. Okay. And then note that when you even travel, like when you eventually get the admission and then you come over, you can keep modifying it. It doesn't have to be what you've written. Your topic, it may still be within the same field, but you can just keep modifying your topic till it looks more, because the more you study, the more you go for classes, the more you have these conversations with people, the more you read up, you begin to see how your work, is shaped in the field, and then you begin to make certain adjustments. So it's don't be too hard on yourself when you're writing it down, but make sure that you bring your best foot forward. All right. And so I hope this has been helpful for you in knowing what your research proposal should be all about. Do not forget to like, do not forget to share and comment, and then tell me ways that you think you need help. If you need help in any way, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would respond to you. Also, you can comment here in the comment section and I would also respond to you. And until then, I hope to see you in another video. Have a good day. Bye.